In your darkest hour, did you ever think that you would be sitting here having these days where you feel absolutely fine as if nothing ever happened?
No, actually. Never thought I would to see that day. I thought it was going to be methotrexate, losing my hair, and all the other side effects of all the other arthritis stuff. And yeah, I never really thought that all of it would be gone. I sit there and I take my blood pressure every day, and I'm like, why am I still taking this? I don't even need to anymore. And it's not even worth checking the blood sugar anymore because it doesn't matter what I eat. None of it's going to make your sugar go high. And it's like everything's gone. There's no more injections every week. There's no more going for infusions every week. There's no more anything. There's no more having to give yourself insulin because you're taking steroids every day. There's no more chipmunk faces from the inflammation from when your face is swelling and you're gaining all this weight. Life is wonderful.
What an incredible story we have in store for you today. This is somebody who thought that all hope had been lost. As a matter of fact, at one point in their life, doctors even wanted to put her into a medically induced coma. She never thought she would be where she is today. She is living proof that all hope is never, ever lost. And with that, we welcome Amber Marin to the show. Amber, thank you so very much for being here. It is a real treat to be able to share this time with you.
Oh, thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Let's talk about all the different diagnoses that you received. I have them in front of me, but if you could just share that with the audience, I think they would get their minds blown.
Well, as I was growing up, I was an athlete and I played a lot of basketball. So it started off when I was in junior high, starting having aches and pains, and I would have popping in my joints. And I wasn't quite sure what it was from. So they sent me to go get a knee brace and some other things like that. That was unsuccessful. Then as I slowly started to get older, by 8th grade, I started having these massive amounts of headaches. So I had seen multiple neurologists. I had gotten Botox. I think it was 50 injections within my brain. At one point, those had failed. Repeat hospitalizations trying to control the pain, no success. One doctor had said that his idea was to put me into an induced coma-like state for a whole week. An anesthesiologist would have to be present, and there was some literature or something that he had read, and we decided we were no longer going to be with that doctor anymore because we didn't like that type of an opinion. Later on, they referred me, because I was having some aches and pains in other spots in my body, to go see a rheumatologist, and it was a pediatric rheumatologist. And he wasn't quite sure what was going on, but he knew that there was something autoimmune going on. By that time, I had a positive ANA. I was slowly starting to get other symptoms, but they couldn't prove or disprove what it was. There were no arthritic signs at that moment. Then when I graduated there, at age 18, they sent me to an adult rheumatologist who gave me the diagnosis of lupus. My positive ANA plus the butterfly rash and several other symptoms like pleurisy and some other things had given a good indication that it was probably lupus. My fingers were starting to swell at the time, but they still didn't say anything about arthritis. They treated me with multiple medications. They kept on upping and upping all the painkillers, which was causing more problems than it was solving anything because none of it was really helping. So I finally just kind of given up on that medication. I had gone through handfuls and handfuls of rheumatologists after that, paid $2,000 cash to see one of the top rheumatologists that wasn't taking insurance. And she was like, no, I really think this is fibromyalgia. This is what you have. And so I kept up with that for a while. And then I went to a new rheumatologist, and that new rheumatologist was like, nope, these x-rays show arthritis. Then I got thrown in the arthritis category, and they were able to prove on the imaging that that's for sure what it was. I was put on multiple biologics at that time. None of them were working. The doctor told me that I needed to take methotrexate, which I was still trying to have children at that time, so it wasn't something that I was willing to take because you can't have children while taking that biologic. And the doctor says, well, if I decide not to take that medication, I couldn't be under his treatment. So then I had to go find a new rheumatologist who would be able to treat me for that. And so my grandmother had been seeing a rheumatologist for quite some time, and I had gone to see her rheumatologist, who was very beneficial and very helpful. She started me on some different biologics, didn't make me take methotrexate. However, towards the end, I guess it was probably about 2 years ago, she was saying that it was getting so bad that we were going to have to start thinking she was going to give me a little bit more time in order to have some children. And she was going to put me on the methotrexate because I had taken multiple biologics like Humira, Cimzia, Enbrel, Orencia, and several others. But during that time period, I had developed, due to taking steroids for the arthritis, because there were days where my hands would be just like this and I just couldn't even move them. I could barely drive, barely see straight. I would have to take medication for anti-nausea so that I could sit next to the toilet because the pain was so bad, and just vomit because the pain was so bad. I had developed a fungi in my lungs due to the biologics that I was taking. They were compromising my immune system, and I think by that time I had 8 pneumonias within that year. And when I grew the fungi, I was almost intubated. I was able to make it without it, but came so close to needing it. Thankfully, didn't require it. During that time, I had had high blood pressure. I've had Raynaud's, pectus excavatum. During some of my pregnancies that I had lost, I had had low progesterone, which now I'm pregnant, but I'm not having progesterone issues. As a result, to the plant-based diet, 2 pregnancies have not had progesterone problems. And yeah, I've reversed the blood pressure issues. I have reversed the arthritis. I have reversed the lupus symptoms because I no longer have any of the symptoms. And I have reversed my ANA as a result of the plant-based diet. The diabetes is no longer there because I'm no longer having to take steroids. And yeah, life is very good.
I wanted to jump in there at a bunch of different points there and ask some questions, but I had to let you go because what you did there, I don't know if you realize that, but you took 5 minutes to lay out decades worth of issues that you were frustrated. I mean, I can't even begin to imagine, Amber, the feeling of frustration that you must have had that I would assume just build and build and build as the years rolled by.
Yeah, it caused a lot of anxiety for a long time. Definitely, I felt a lot of hopeless days. I remember I was very depressed before my 11-year-old was born. She was born with complex medical needs, and she was the one that made, I think, the transition to the plant-based diet all possible. I have 2 children. And of course, I want to live for both of my children and be able to do things with them, because there was so much that even with my atypical child that I couldn't do, because like I would take her to the library, but then I would have to leave because I couldn't stand the pain. I couldn't sit there during the playtime at the library because the pain was just unbearable. So she missed out on a lot. But my other kiddo has 17 doctors, 3 therapists, and a plethora of other medical needs and brain surgeries and stuff like that. And everybody keeps on saying, like, this is so difficult. What makes it so easy? And I think that the biggest thing that you have to find when you're transitioning to do something like this is you have to figure out what your why is. Because I don't think any of that would have been possible if I wouldn't have had the why, because I would still be depressed. I wouldn't know how to handle the pain, and most doctors don't know how to do what it is that Dr. Montgomery and his team of experts in his clinic have been able to do for me. And the lack of understanding amongst the medical institutions around the United States regarding this topic is very saddening.
Before we talk more about your own kids, I want to go back to your own childhood, because you were kind of like a budding basketball star. You were out there, you were playing, but then you start to develop these aches and pains that we hear about with professional athletes who are at the tail end of their career, who have been doing it for decades. Like, what kind of toll did that begin to take on you at a young age, knowing like something wasn't quite right? You strap on the knee brace and try to give it a go, but you're still feeling limited.
I did. I really felt like my whole world was coming to an end at times, because, like my coach had told me, oh, well, you're doing so good. You're the MVP. You can go ahead and you'll probably get a scholarship if you keep up the good work. And then next thing you know, I was trading my whole life and everything that I imagined moving forward for a hospital bed. for an office visit, for staying home. And I actually had to come out of school. I went on what was called homebound, and the teacher would come to the house twice a week because I was getting like IV treatments of steroids at the time in order to control whatever it is that the diagnosis was at the time. I think it was lupus mixed with headaches, and that was the doctor that was trying to put me in the coma, and he had me on the IV drip multiple times a day, and I couldn't go to school with that. So my whole world at that point was kind of like falling apart. I had gone on a retreat with church, and the pain got so horrific on that trip that they had to take me to the airport and fly me home so that I could go home and go to the hospital.
I mean, so you're taken out of school, you're doing homeschool, you're battling sickness, but then I would imagine there's an awfully lonely feeling that comes from that, being isolated from your friends. You know, you're not having that typical adolescent and teenage upbringing at that point. You're really facing very adult problems at an early age, and largely, as you said, you felt like your world was coming to an end. Being a teenager by itself is no picnic, but to have that on top of everything else, like, Amber, do you realize how much was on your shoulders?
I'm looking back, I really do. But I think my perseverance and my upbringing is something that got me prepared for what it was that I needed. We were always religious growing up, and I always knew that even if it was something that wasn't good, that was thrown at you, that you had to bear something, that there would be something good that came out of it. And I really think that God had a divine plan for making me sick, because he's able to use my story in order to be able to convert other people to be able to have a successful life, because I was not having a successful life. I was surviving life. I eventually, in my 20s, went to work, did things, and I would go home and I would cry. The pain was so bad. I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that. I was not living, I was surviving. And it wasn't until this, I was like, oh my gosh, like the other day, I had eaten something and it was supposedly plant-based, and it must have had some kind of ingredient in there that my body didn't like. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like almost out for the count. And I'm like, this is only a level 4. How did I survive a level 10 for so many years? Like, you look back and you're just like, well, it's going to be used for something good.
No doubt about it. I guess, always look on the sunny side of life, to be able to look through that lens at a young age, I think is pretty key. Do you, though, feel like you did miss out on so many things? Do you think about what might have been? Could you have gotten that basketball scholarship and gone on to star in the WNBA?
Well, if I had gotten that, then I probably wouldn't have had the blessings that I had in my path now. So I think for a while I was kind of regretful, but if I had gone somewhere, I might not have met my husband. I might not have had the children that I have now. So I don't think I look back. I kind of wonder sometimes what it would have been like, but I don't live in regret, because it's not going to get me anywhere. I'm just going to stay positive, and it is what it is. I went through things, and those things are what are going to fuel me to be able to make a positive impact in other people's lives, and to hopefully be able to help them to live Yeah, I don't know if they would call it the brain, the scalp, or how they would call it, because I was young. I was just going and doing whatever it was that I was told, and I was so scared at that point. They went multiple different spots all around, and I think there were like about 50 of them or so. And like, all I can remember back in those days was being so terrified, because every time the needle would go in, you could hear it. It wasn't that painful, but you could just hear it going as it's cutting through the different layers of the skin. And I was like, I don't know what's going on right now, but somehow we're going to get through this, and this is going to work. And then the next problem would come, and nothing was still helping. So all you have is your positive and your faith, and you just keep on moving.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine so. But even still, with positivity, with faith, I mean, like, that's some pretty intense, scary stuff for a child that age.
Yeah, there was one point actually that it got a lot worse than that. It was around the same time, and apparently they'd given me some injections. Nothing was working, and so one of the neurologists I had seen, I don't know how many I've seen, took me into the office, and he was like, "Okay, I'm going to give you this injection. Lay down here in this bed and wait a few hours, and then we'll see what happens." Well, then he had given me another one. Then he was like, "Well, I can't give you any more different kinds of medicines or injections. Just go home and we'll reconvene tomorrow." Well, by the time we got out of the parking lot, I had started to go blind and started losing my vision. And I was like, "Mom, I can't see." And she was like, "Oh no, you can see. What's wrong?" And we discussed it, and then we went back in. He did an evaluation. Then they ended up putting me in it was like CT or MRI. Ironically enough, I think he was checking for hydrocephalus, which is what my kid had. And he was like, "No, your ventricles, they look fine, and I can't find anything else that's causing this. What's going on?" And needless to say, I was lucky enough that the machine got hit by lightning at that moment. And then they had to manually take me out, put me in another machine, finish what they were doing, and they couldn't figure out what was going on. So that, like, my vision kind of came back, then it kind of lapsed again, and then it kind of came back. But it was about that time that we knew that it was about time to go find a new neurologist. So then we went hitting the pavement trying to find a new doctor that would have a better outcome, hopefully, right?
No doubt. I mean, my goodness. So, how long were you without your vision? How long did that last?
That lasted off and on for maybe about a week. So something must have like gone wrong with the medicine, and I must have been somehow allergic to one of them. I still don't know what either one of those were. That same physician decided that he was going to give me, what was it, one of the medications which caused dystonia. So I lost all feeling and sensation the very same week with that medication as well. So yeah, I've had some really bizarre things happen, but keep on moving.
I'm telling you, keep on. Amber, my goodness gracious. I mean, your outlook, I mean, your parents raised you right. That's all I have to say about that. To be so positive about
Well,
things, it's just
you
so,
can't
so
control what
incredible.
hand you're dealt. You can only control how you play your hand. And we are a product of what we believe. We can convince ourselves it's a good day, or we can convince ourselves it's a bad day. And there were a lot of days that were such a struggle to even think that they were a good day. But, you know, if you don't have optimism of some sort, then man, I would have been like 5 feet under the ground a long time ago.
Well, let's talk about the nutrition component here. Obviously, you know, you're going through all of these different treatments and going to all of these different doctors trying to solve this mystery that is your health. All the while, what was your diet like at this point?
Oh man, when I was on the steroids, on that drip, yeah, my diet was fabulous. It was two microwaved chicken cordon bleus at lunchtime and dinner time if that's what I wanted, and whatever else I wanted. I didn't really do a lot of sodas at the time, anything like that, but yeah, there was nothing off limits. And vegetables, what were those? Those might have happened like once
You had tried plant-based for a while and just didn't quite take. And eventually you come back, you refine it, you work with Dr. Montgomery and start to see these incredible results. But when did you first start looking like, well, maybe I should be looking in the nutrition aisle as opposed to continuing down this path of doctor after doctor after doctor after doctor and still not really finding a solution?
Well, my mom's friend, also my friend, she had seen Dr. Montgomery due to somebody at work referring her to go see him. And she was feeling a lot better with some of the illnesses that she had. And she was the one that encouraged me to try the plant-based diet. And I was like, well, what do I have to lose? And I'd given it a good year. And I was just like, not seeing any results. I had weight loss. That was great. I mean, losing weight is always a good thing, but it wasn't solving the blood pressure. It wasn't solving the arthritis. And I was like, well, what's the point? I'm not feeling better. Like, I don't have time for this. If I'm going to be putting forth all this effort, I need to be seeing results other than just weight loss. And my pain was getting out of control. My daughter's health wasn't doing well. So I just finally said, you know what? I can't cook for me and then cook for everybody else something different. And I just went back to my old habits. And I gained some more weight, was still taking the same meds. And it was like last year, I guess it was not this past November, but the November before, I had finally just had it. I was like, the next thing is methotrexate, and I'm not doing that. I'm not taking low doses of chemo in order to be able to cure the arthritis. I'm done. I'm ready to start living life. Today is the day, and I'm just going to do it because my daughter's not getting any healthier. She weighs 85 pounds now, and she ain't getting any smaller. So I have to be ready because she can't walk to be able to care for her for the rest of my life. And it's just like I said earlier, you have to find what your why is. Why do you want this? Because it's going to be difficult. Going raw is not easy. Doing this is not easy, but the outcome is the easiest. Because once you see the benefits, it was not even 3 months in of going raw. I was still having a little bit of pain, but it was nothing. I wasn't taking ondansetron. I wasn't sitting next to a toilet vomiting. I was able to drive without feeling impaired, all these different things. So I think it was pretty much a miracle that it happened like so quickly.
Yeah, so not easy, but it's worth it. But it sounds like it gets easier with time. How long did it take you to get acclimated?
Mentally was the hardest part. Like, I'm not a huge vegetable fan. Like, I'll eat vegetables, but Dr. Montgomery broke it down to me. Put it in a smoothie. Like, that's the best thing to do. Start off with the smoothies, and I did some salads and stuff like that, and I eased my way into it. I was doing like some tortilla type things, like corn tortillas, and I think that was like my cheat. I gave myself corn tortillas, and I would make like some kind of pico and other different kinds of things and throw it in on convince myself I was eating a raw taco, and it was nice. But yeah, that's how I survived it, one step at a time.
Do you find with the raw diet though, I find especially people that eat exclusively raw, like are some of the most creative culinary wizards on the planet. Just the way that you're able to create different dishes and replicate flavors and things like that. Are you kind of having fun with that now?
I'm trying to. Like, I think I would have a lot more fun if I had more time. Like, I started to feel better and I was like, oh, I'm going back to work. I can conquer this. Yet my child still has all of her health issues. So I keep it basic. Like my friends at work, they were like, all you eat is this? And because I was eating like spinach salad with some of Dr. Montgomery's dressing on top. And then sometimes I would throw some pumfu on top or something. And like I would put some vegetables on top. And they're like, is that all you're eating? That or you bring beans? Aren't you tired of eating the same thing all the time? I was like, no, you don't know what tired is. If you live at a level 10 pain for so many decades of your life, food no longer becomes important once it becomes the reason why you survive. I could really care less. Like when I go to the hospital, the nurses with my daughter, they're always like, Miss Marin, you got to eat something more than hummus, because I eat the hummus platter. I know it has a little oil in there, but their salad bar is the worst. So I eat the hummus platter with the carrots. And that's what they order and they send to my room. And that's the same thing I eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner if I don't order Dr. Montgomery's food. And I'm like, I could care less what it is that goes in my mouth. If it's not going to throw me off and make me feel sick, then I could eat the same thing for every single meal, every single day, if it meant having my life back. And that's what I got.
Oh yeah, that's such a great message there. You mentioned like level 10 pain. was just kind of a constant everyday occurrence for you. What is it like for you today? I mean, are we talking like we're at a 1, we're at a 2? What's your baseline these days?
0, unless I eat something that kind of throws me off. So like I ate something the other day and it was plant-based, and then all of a sudden I started feeling this pain. So I really just restrict myself to not experimenting with things that I don't know if I can really handle. Like I was doing, it was like Ezekiel brand cereal, and it's from sprouted grains. You would think I'd be able to handle it, but I think it's the almonds inside. So as delicious as it was, I couldn't get rid of the pain until I got rid of that. And the moment I cut that cereal out, even as healthy as it is, and I'm a huge fan of it, it is the most delicious stuff in the world. But needless to say, my body can't tolerate it. And I think going raw is really key, because when you add one thing at a time, you can really isolate what it is that your body is trying to communicate to you, because you are so in tune with what's going on with your body that I can even say, oh, it must be because this has salt in it. And then I look on the back and I'm like, oh, that's what it is. Or this has some kind of nut in it. And I know immediately that's what it is.
Do you feel like you've kind of become your own nutrition expert now, or are you still kind of like a detective on the case?
I really have. I just need to learn some more of the details, because I'm just fascinated. Like this whole thing just fascinates me, and I want to get some kind of degree where I can be able to help convert people to this lifestyle to change them. So I feel like I still got a lot of more educating left to do.
Give us some examples of some foods that your body really tolerates well now. And then I think you said that nightshades may still be a no-go for you, correct?
I think nightshades definitely are. So what I like to eat is sometimes I make muffins. I would like to giving myself some more time. I'm pregnant right now, so I'm gonna wait until next year, but I think I'm gonna try to make it all raw. I don't think I can do it right now during pregnancy, because I just don't think I've got the mental state for it. But I feel best at raw, so I like the raw salads with different kinds of vegetables on top. I love Dr. Montgomery's dressings. If I could just eat in Dr. Montgomery's kitchen every single day, I think I would be just the happiest girl in the world, because all the raw food is just so good. I just got a dehydrator, and so I'm gonna start learning to dehydrate my own bread and things like that so that I can have raw breads. I really like tortillas. I grew up in Texas, of course, and married an El Salvadorian, and Tex-Mex and Hispanic food is something I really like, so I love beans. Avocados go with every single meal. I think I told you about, I make like pomfu tacos, and I make spinach and stuff inside of it. And I make different kinds of sandwiches using Ezekiel bread with some guacamole and some tomatoes sometimes on there. And sometimes, even though it's a nightshade, I just decide, is it something I want? I know that it's going to cause a little inflammation, but it's not going to cause pain. Then I might just decide, well, today I want to eat it, and that's going to be fine. I'll just know what the consequence is, and if it's not that bad, then I might just indulge.
Oh, right. I got you. I love that, man. You're just so open, and you're so honest, and you are going to bring a lot of hope. So, I mean, you battled for so many years with this, and to get to where you are today. I mean, in your darkest hour, did you ever think that you would be sitting here having these days where you feel absolutely fine, as if nothing ever happened?
No, actually, never thought I would to see that day. Like, I thought it was going to be methotrexate, losing my hair, and all the other side effects of all the other arthritis stuff. And yeah, I never really thought that all of it would be gone. I sit there and I take my blood pressure every day, and I'm like, why am I still taking this? I don't even need to anymore. And it's not even worth checking the blood sugar anymore, because it doesn't matter what I eat. None of it's going to make your sugar go high. And it's like, everything's gone. There's no more injections every week. There's no more going for infusions every week. There's no more anything. There's no more having to give yourself insulin because you're taking steroids every day. There's no more chipmunk faces from the inflammation from when your face is swelling and you're gaining all this weight. Like, I had gained from steroids a good 30, 40 pounds because I'd been on steroids for such a long time. They'd take you off and then they'd put you back on because you're having a flare up. When you finally start rejecting one of the biologics, then you have no other choice while you're waiting for your biologics to get approved but to take that, because the only thing that's going to make you get out of bed is going to be taking steroids. So it's constant battle.
And how is your outlook when you wake up first thing in the morning? I mean, what is your thought? Like, are you just kind of like I am, having gone through the transformation where it's just like, I can't believe this is finally my life?
I just am grateful every day. And I know that there's a reason for everything. And I am so thankful that I get this opportunity. And it was almost like I could have had it sooner. It was thrown right there in front of me, the name Dr. Montgomery, but I never took the time to go do it. And I look back and I'm like, it just wasn't my time. Like, I'm just so happy that right now I'm sitting here today and I can say that a majority of the time, unless I eat something that causes some kind of funkiness, I am doing great. 100% of the days. No longer taking nausea medicine from pain, any of the other medications. There were times where I would be taking like 15 to 20 meds a day. And I just look back and I'm like, I had a large med list just like my daughter. And I'm like, I am so happy. I can say that I only take prenatal vitamins and a few other little vitamins, and life is wonderful.
And let's end with a really positive message. What would Amber today tell Amber from many years ago, who was really just in the thick of it, right? Had seen school kind of taken away from them. They're doing the homeschool thing in constant pain, probably, even with that optimistic outlook and pushing forward, still really wrestling with a lot of things. What would you today tell little Amber?
Oh, don't give up. Definitely. Like, we are a product of what we create in our mind. We can convince ourselves it's a good day or convince ourselves it's a bad day. Keep on pushing through and don't give up and try raw. I guarantee you, there is nothing out there that you cannot cure by going raw. Unless you got a bone that's broken, there is nothing that you cannot fix with going plant-based. The problem is that there are not enough doctors that know this or that practice this to be able to cure you. So you have to do a lot of your own investigation, but this is key. I would just promote this to myself, and I try to convert people every single day to going to the plant-based lifestyle because I really know that it's key to curing so many different illnesses.
Right on. You are just an absolute inspiration. Thank you so much for your time, Amber.
Oh no, thank you so much for allowing me to be here with you today.